We've got flags and banners, and if you mind your manners, we might even get to standards and what they represent. So just take my voice's hand and we'll both try to understand how this Vexillology podcast could be flagged for content. Flagged for content.
What's up, VexHeads, and welcome to episode 44 of Flagged for Content. It's the only podcast with a moving target for a release date. I'm sorry about that. Something came up, but we're here now, so it's all good. Anyway, it's also a Flags for Good podcast, and if you haven't gone over there, go check out flagsforgood.com/flagged4content, the number 4. Because, their selection is growing all the time, and I have it on good authority that there's going to be some high art coming from Mr. Green and Company soon. So, keep an eye out over there. And when you do go over there, use code FLAGGED4CONTENT. That is, again, is the number 4, the digit. You get it. At checkout, and you will get 10% off of, whatever you're getting. And you will let Michael know that I upheld my end of the bargain. So, it's a win-win for both of us. Thanks. Okay, so not a lot of notes up top here. This week, we are going to get into it soon. But as I have mentioned, our new rearranged Patreon has bonus episodes with the guests that act kind of as like addendums. As, I've been called, like, this one will be called like episode 44.5, kind of things like that. And this week it is Max and I, of course, discussing his North Dakota County Flag project, which he is very excited about and wanted to make sure that I mentioned up top here. It's a fascinating look at an area of vexillology and of the country, to be honest, that I normally would not pay much attention to at all. And he is from Sweden. And he's doing this. So anyway, go check that out. That is on the Patreon at the $5 level. And without any further ado, let's just get to it. Folks, we have yet another amazing guest for you this week. You know him as a VexHead and flag design enthusiast from Sweden. You know him from Reddit as Smiix, where he won February's design contest. And you definitely know him from his Instagram at new_Vexillology. It's Max!
What's up?
What is up, Max? It is great to have you here.
It's good to be here. I'm a big fan.
Thank you. Yeah. I've noticed a couple of things I've talked about on the podcast have been posted on new_Vexillology the very next day.
What a coincidence,
about New Zealand
right?
designs and no, it's nice to know that we have a listener and everything. So, but so like as I mentioned, you are in Sweden. How are things over in Stockholm, right?
Yeah, Stockholm. It's good. It's snowing and dark, but I'm feeling good.
Yeah, you guys get snow in, I guess, fall, autumn, whatever over there.
Sometimes. And then it usually melts like around Christmas. And comes back in March when you don't want it.
Do they have is there like a nickname for that? Because I know we have one in English that I can't think of.
I don't know, but we have like April weather.
Yeah, okay.
You can never trust it.
The English one is something like that, or maybe something about Easter or something over there. I cannot think of it.
I'm not familiar
I'll add it in
either.
post, and it'll be jarring to anyone listening. That is wild though that you have snow, because like I'm looking out the window right here, and it's just like we are in the perfect part of fall where the leaves have changed but not actually fallen yet, so you can get your picks in and everything.
Yeah, but it's like that over here too. But I don't know. Snow decided to come in early.
Yeah, that is a weird thing to happen at the same time, at least here in Tennessee. But anyway, enough of this weather talk that everyone seems to love so much. Let's get into letting the VexHeads know what is on the flagpole today. And VexHeads, it's exciting stuff. We have our usual over and underrated flags, but done with a little bit of a twist. Of course, we have the flag that got Max into Vex, we will talk about Sweden, both macro and micro, several different micro levels, really. We'll discuss my favorites, the Nordic flags, of course, and discuss several different approaches to flag design. But first, before we get into any of that, Max, I like to ask my guests, what is the flag that got you into flags in the first place?
Oh, okay. So this is also like in general, because the flags that got me into flags were the municipal flags around Stockholm.
Okay.
Which is what I would be seeing, basically, other than national flags, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. And like what's special about that is I started by wanting to redesign them.
Okay.
Because at that time I thought that they weren't really like real flags, because they were based on the coat of arms of the municipality.
Right.
And I guess I can't remember, but I must have seen like some video like that, Good Flag, Bad Flag, TED Talk,
or
like CGP Grey talking about principles.
Right.
And I made up something in my mind like, that's not real flags. They need to be simple.
Okay. So this is kind of going on simultaneously. Like you're getting into flags around the same time you listen to that TED Talk, and you're like, you've noticed them, and you're like, you know what? Yeah, this could be better. Okay.
Yeah, I guess I thought they could be better.
Right.
Better adapted for flag use, I guess.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Stockholm municipality and the Stockholm county ones here, and I definitely see what you mean about the coat of arms, especially in the county. The coat of arms like influence there. For listeners, it's got like a crowned head. Well, how would you describe it actually? The county one.
It's basically like a king's head. All in gold on a blue field. It's the head of Saint Eric.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know whose.
Yeah, and it's basically just that. Central European this type of design. Like
it's not super interesting. It's weird to compare them to like I'm gonna go a little bit American here, but to compare them to our American city flags.
Yeah,
it's interesting because I think it's better than a lot of them, but like by your standards, it could be a lot better, which I definitely agree with.
Yeah, I think we'll get into that quite a bit more. So
I suspect we should probably save that maybe for later. But okay, yeah. So those are the ones that got you into it, along with, you said you read Good Flag, Bad Flag.
Yeah,
and it kind of got like the wheels turning about like, what could this be? I'm curious, we don't have this in the exact doc that we're looking at, but did you come up with better ones for Stockholm city and county?
Not for Stockholm, I think. Maybe it's because it's my own the municipality that I live in.
Yeah.
So that I didn't want to change this too much. Like maybe I liked it already, but for the other ones, I don't know. Maybe they were better. But I did upload them to Reddit, and that's kind of how I got started there, with getting some feedback on those.
Right. Yeah. Like, that is on the doc. So so Reddit, you got, as you said, feedback, and I know Reddit feedback can be, well, it's Reddit feedback, what did you get? Mostly positive, mostly like, was it kind of a mixed bag, like depending on the municipality you were redesigning? Were there any favorites? Like,
I remember they were positive, and I wonder if that made me continue. Maybe things could have gone different.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah. I redesigned, I know we talked about this off air, but I redesigned a couple things for, not even for Reddit, but for like flag sessions, various contests. And I quickly determined, okay, maybe I'm not a designer. Maybe I'm better at talking to folks or, whatever this is that I do. But you, on the other hand, yeah, you found that you were a very good designer, and even like we mentioned in the intro, won the February design contest. But we'll get into a little bit of that. Let's go ahead actually and get into, so you've got your overrated and your underrated flags. Yep. And I've been telling the guests, get into those in whatever order you think is best.
All right. So let's start with the overrated, which it's something of a topic that I've touched upon on my Instagram. I've done one post about it, but also a lot of stories.
Yeah.
It's the blue and green flags. The blue and green epidemic or pandemic.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah. And I think that one post that I don't know your engagement on Instagram, but that one post that you did, I know it got a lot of engagement because I was one of the ones saying, hey, my city does this currently. But yeah, walk us through a little bit of what you mean as far as like the blue and green epidemic.
Yeah, so there seems to be kind of a trend, at least in the US, where city flags either like redesign or adopt new flags that implement the colors of blue and green to most often represent like vegetation, water, and sky. And those are like the first things you think of when you look outside the window. That's why I think it's so funny.
Yep. It is. Yeah.
Yeah, but I've noticed some kind of like problems with it, and I might be one of the bigger critics of it.
I mean, yeah, you're definitely one of the more outspoken or vocal or high profile, whatever, maybe all of the above critics of it that I've seen anyway, because this isn't something, I think it may have been something I subconsciously noticed, but not something that I was super conscious of until I saw the post in question, that you laid all of them out too.
Yeah.
And it was
there are so many, like, what?
Yeah. What you laying them all out is kind of what we made. Well, you laying them out and me living in a city that has one of them that wasn't even on your chart, I don't think. So it's like there's more than are even, high profile ones. I was like, yeah, this is not something I thought of, but this is an epidemic. And yeah, as you said, vegetation, water, and sky. What are the three things that everywhere has?
Yeah,
almost everywhere. Like
any place. It could be any place.
Yeah. I mean, the Arctic Circle, maybe you swap the green for white, but other than that, like, it could be anywhere. It's not.
There must be something that's more important or like something characteristic, unique. Like, a town can be named Brownsville, and they have a green and blue flag, not brown.
Yeah. No, and I think that's a very good point and very interesting. We don't talk about enough, like the I guess like there are things like the new city flags survey. There's the good and the bad with that. We tend to talk about the good. We talk a bit about the bad, but we don't talk a lot about the things that are kind of in the middle. And I think a lot of the things that you're talking about are those. They're not great. They're not terrible either.
Yeah.
They're just kind of, there's some water there. I guess there's grass. And a lot of times there's even a seal, which makes it even worse. But
yeah, but it creates like a lack of distinctiveness.
Yes,
and not
that's
that you
the
couldn't
word I would. Yeah.
tell them apart, but if you think about it, like a lot of sometimes like sports teams use the colors of the city flag on their jerseys and so on. Like it becomes a big part of the town's identity. And if every town has a blue and green flag, you can't do that. Like there's no versatility, no remixability.
Right. Yeah. How do you play, like, how does Springfield play Shelbyville if both their colors are just green and blue? One wears green, one wears blue, but then you forget, who's home and away, I guess. But anyway, it's a distinctive lack of distinctiveness is, I guess, a good way to put it.
I did get some interesting like comments on that post though.
Okay,
Like it was someone
did
from
you get
the
pushback?
like someone from the Cleveland flag account who does a lot of green and blue flags for their proposals.
Mhm.
They wrote like it could be an extension of the environmental movement, right? That cities are proud to showcase their like their restorated parks and waterways, and it's kind of like a non-controversial alternative.
Right. It's explicitly non-political, historical, which sometimes historical gets political, depending. Yeah. I think it was the Cleveland flag one that I was even thinking of when I thought of pushback, because me and you and Cleveland flag, we all get along. We just disagree on slight things here and there, but it's part of what makes it fun. And yeah, also you had on your list here that it's moving away from red, white, and blue, which
Yes,
I think is an important point to make too, especially stateside here. Well, mostly stateside here. That we're no longer. Yeah, I guess it goes to what his point about the environmental movement is. We're no longer doing it on a level of like, okay, we have to match like the U.S. flag or whatever. We're doing it on a we have to match what's out my window. The problem being, as we stated, the same things are out everybody's window. So, yeah.
And they're probably much better than before, too. So it's not always bad. It's better.
Sure.
Like
I mean, they're high-profile flags that are those colors.
Yeah, like the Keystone flag.
The Keystone
it's
flag.
It's an improvement, but still, agriculture, vegetation, water.
Yeah. The North Star flag comes to mind.
Yeah.
Especially given the the river element at the bottom.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was your overrated. Do you have anything else to touch up with on that?
Just to finish off, like it's just something that I've been thinking about when designing flags myself too, because it's a challenge to come up with colors. It's really a challenge. Because you don't have that much to work with, so I don't blame anyone. Keep on doing your flags, like
right.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get our Chattanooga one changed at some point soon, but get into that later. All right, so as we said, that was your overrated category, kind of. So you did a similar thing for your underrated. It's a category that I will let you explain.
I had to come up with something new because I started writing like for my underrated, what became the main topic for today. But what I came up with was like the simple flags.
Okay.
So let's say like Ukraine, Latvia, Italy, Poland, Indonesia. They're simple yet effective. And they're striking, and people love them. And I just think that's very interesting.
Yeah, I think it does say a lot to be to have especially the most current example is Ukraine, to have a bicolor flag that's just two stripes, and also have like so much recognition, like have so many people around the world recognizing that on just the strength of two colors and stripes. I think that does say a lot.
Yeah, and it doesn't even matter what the colors represent. People are just attached to the colors because they have the Ukrainian vibe. Like what do the colors on the Polish flag represent, or the German flag? Doesn't matter.
It doesn't. Yeah, exactly. It really doesn't. It's just aesthetics and knowing what it represents. I mean, the French flag, the Italian flag, these are iconic, especially like the Irish flag. Like, go to a lot of neighborhoods in, like, I went to school in Boston. There's neighborhoods with Italian flags. There's neighborhoods with Irish flags. The difference is subtle in the on the fly side, the red versus the orange.
Yeah,
but it's there. And as we've been talking about, they both represent, even if you don't know exactly what the colors represent, you know what the flags represent. Okay, this is the Italian neighborhood. That's the Irish neighborhood, more or less. yeah, there's a lot that goes into that can be stated with so little, I think, and that is very neat.
And do you start now to realize the problem with green and blue? If every city uses green and blue?
Yeah, if everyone starts using that, it's almost like no one can recognize it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very different.
And why I say they're underrated is just because people like to lift flags like Hong Kong or what is it? Bhutan with the dragon.
Yeah.
Yes. They're cool, but I think it's cooler that two colors can do so much.
Yeah, by and large, I definitely agree. Like, it's very cool to do so much with so little. I guess let's go ahead and move into the main part of the show, and we've got an outline here, and I think there might be a question for me on this, if I'm reading this right.
Yeah, well, Sweden. Let's get into it.
Let's.
What do you know about Sweden in general?
Oh, okay, so I know their flag, obviously. It's up here behind me. I know that our listeners who are listening to this on Spotify have Sweden to thank because that is a Swedish company.
Oh,
I briefly had a Saab at one point.
Nice.
I think those are born from jets and also Swedish.
Something like that.
Yeah. Other than that, yeah, not too much. I know where it is.
It's quite a bit. Okay,
maybe more than most, but most Americans, but less than most Europeans, I suspect.
Yeah. Well, you know the national flag, but do you know anything about the other flags in Sweden?
You mean like the lower level, like the county, municipal, ones like that? No, not really. Not other than the Stockholm one that you said earlier.
Oh, true. Yeah.
I think that's probably the only one, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm planning to. I think this will be a quite good introduction to flag use in Sweden in general.
Okay.
So, like the flag of Stockholm, like pretty much every like administrative entity or like division in Sweden have the right to adopt a coat of arms, which they then can use in a flag format, and that's called a banner of arms.
Okay.
So, like the flags in Sweden are completely like made up of these banners of arms. That's what we have.
Gotcha. And we may talk about this a little bit more later as well, but this sounds a little bit like the Czech system.
Yeah, I guess, but it's a bit different. I think the Czech are more like have more freedom in remixing the coat of arms into flags.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Whereas we just put them on a square.
Right. I was noticing, since you sent me this picture with the counties, provinces, whatever. Provinces.
Yes.
Yeah, they are all square, which I will say there's something to be said for uniformity. I think
that is typical for a banner of arms. You put them on a square field.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I'm not as familiar with banners of arms as some of our listeners and past guests, but yeah, these are interesting. Okay, so you said it gets a coat of arms, and then it basically makes that into a flag.
Yes. And well, speaking of the provinces, that's what we're getting into, because we have a couple of different divisions. So we have like on the bigger scale, or the biggest scale, we have counties, and then we're getting to municipalities.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have a like very important divisions, a type of division, which is non-administrative, more traditional, and these are the provinces.
Oh, okay. This sounds similar to some UK stuff. Yeah. Okay. Go on.
I don't know.
Traditional.
Yeah. Anyway, like, so the provinces are probably like the very most important for identity still, though.
Okay. Even if they're no longer like political regional entities.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
So like accents are still referred to by province. when speaking about parts of Sweden, you refer to the province.
Mm.
So they play a very, very big part in culture and identity.
Yeah.
But then, what's interesting flag-wise is that, from what I've noticed, there's a disparity between this importance to identity and the flag use, and that makes you wonder, like, what's wrong with the flags, right?
Right. If you're so proud to be from a place and yet you never, like, maybe you don't even own the flag. Yeah.
Yeah, people don't
Right.
even know it, maybe.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of our American listeners can probably identify with this. But yeah, no, that's interesting. Go on.
Oh yeah, a flag is the ultimate way to show your identity, right?
Yeah.
So that's where it begins to be a little bit strange.
Right.
But you have them pulled up, right? So
Yes,
I
yeah, I
think
got them up
we
here on my
should
screen here, and
describe them.
oh man, there's a 5x5 that I'm looking at. I don't know if that's the same one you've got up, but Bohuslän is at the top left.
Yes.
Oh, this is a lot to describe. There's a lion being a little bit amorous with a castle tower. He's on the fly side, and on the hoist side there's a sword. That's Bohuslän. Let's see. I can't do all these, but let me pick up a couple other ones that are really interesting to me. I do like. Okay, so Åland.
Yeah. Sorry about the names.
That's different than the Åland Islands like flag that I have behind me because that's a different accent mark over it.
Yeah, it's different.
Okay, but this one is very cool because it's a reindeer basically just facing the hoist like normal, with red antlers and like his tongue sticking out, which is kind of like the thing that stuck out to me the most. I do like him. That's Åland, or however. What's going on in Lapland? Do they still call it Lapland? Because I heard like they prefer Sami. Like,
I'm
yeah,
not
maybe
sure.
we don't go into the politics of it necessarily, but what's with the guy? I don't know. It's for lack of a better way to put it, it's a red man in a like grass skirt or like a green skirt with a big club on his back and his other hand on his hip.
It's called a wild man.
A wild man. Okay.
And I think it's because like the people there are rough, they're strong, living up in the north, you know?
Like rough conditions, like weather-wise.
At least I hope so.
Yeah.
Could be worse.
Right. His skin is so red because he's been out in the snow and cold without any clothes on, apparently. The blood rushes to the surface. That's what they tell me anyway.
Yeah. But basically, they're a bunch of animals on fields of color, mostly.
It mostly is, yeah. Eagles, lions, there's
weapons.
A ram.
Yeah. Pretty simple.
Jämtland is interesting because it looks like there's a little kitty cat who's trying to be best friends with a moose, but the moose is already best friends with the bird that's sitting on its butt. So there's a lot going on there. I think the most simple or the most like traditional, well, maybe not Swedish traditional, given the fact that it's the odd one out, but metal pod or metal pad at the bottom leftish there. That looks a little bit like, it's a square, but it looks a little bit like something you would see here in the States for a city flag or something.
True, it's more geometrical.
Yes, yeah, and less based on, I guess, heraldry, as you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are interesting. There's a little bit of a mix. None of the lions are quite the same. Dragons, the ram. Yeah. There's a good mix here. Like you said, it is very animal centric.
Yeah.
Which I guess heraldry does tend to be, from what I know, but
kind of a trend.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So these are interesting.
Yeah, so they look pretty cool, right? Nothing wrong with them. But this disparity, how do we explain that? Do you have any ideas? Like from a flag vexillology perspective, what could be some issues with these flags?
Yeah, I mean, at a distance, I think is the issue, because at a distance, I could see a lot of these with a blue field and a white animal, and then some maybe yellow and red kind of in the background. But I can see a lot of these looking very similar. At honestly, even like, I'm sure I'm pronouncing this wrong. I hope I'm pronouncing this wrong. Gastric land and
It's okay.
Dalsland. Now I'm pronouncing it like Tennessee. Anyway, those look very easy to mix up at a distance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's something that separates them a lot from, let's say, like recently adopted flags, city flags in the US.
Yeah.
They're geometrical, standardized, so on.
Mhm.
I remember that Frederick Flagman.
Yeah.
He spoke about remixability, and I think that might be like quite important for a flag use.
I agree. I tend to agree. Yeah.
Because if you can put like the design on many things, you'll see it a lot, and it might increase popularity.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that like Tara talks about all the time in the Discord, which listeners, viewers, you should join. But yeah, like she's got so many different versions of like the Keystone flag that we mentioned earlier that aren't that green and blue. Whether it's sports teams, like local municipalities, you can go a little more micro with it, sports with it, you can do a lot with it. Is if it's got, as you were going into, the ability to be remixed, which these don't really.
Not really, because I don't think the colors too are quite like kind of random, and a lot of them are on a blue field. There's something like I don't know if they took that from the USA, but yeah,
it looks like the whole group of these flags. Sorry not to harp on it too much, but there's only like 6 colors used in this whole field of 25. It looks like.
Yeah.
You got red, gold, white, black.
I think that's a heraldic thing.
And I don't even. Oh, there's green on the guy's grass.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know it's a heraldic to only use. Well, yeah, okay, that's fair. I guess.
And then there's the rule of tincture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, another thing that I've like realized when I was thinking about this issue is the symbolism. Because, like, could you guess on any of these what the symbolism is?
No, no, not really. There's a couple that, okay, if there's a crown there, then maybe there was like a prince or a king from there. But other than that, not really. No.
Yeah, like a cow doesn't say that much, or a lion.
No, I mean, a cow says
Even
the same
less.
thing that like a sheep or a ram or whatever, like pastoral animal. It doesn't. Yeah, it's not specific.
Yeah, so I think it's difficult because these arms are actually very old. A lot of them were adopted in like 1600s and 1500s, or they're even older. So the symbolism comes from like what was happening in the province at the time. So let's say like Dalsland, they were doing cow breeding, I guess.
Sure.
And Hälsingland, goat herding. But looking at these provinces today, not so much.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, that's kind of the same thing. And you haven't heard it yet because as Max and I are recording this, the episode will come out tomorrow with Jeremy from the Golden Wattle and Flags for Australia. But yeah, we were discussing how the current flag of Australia, it's a good like reminder of where they came from, which seems to be like a similar thing to these, but it doesn't really fill in the middle or the current. Like, yes, obviously there's something to looking to the past. Like I'm a student of history, you know, like most of us vexillologists love history, but there's also something to be said for, you know, representing what this place currently does, whatever, maybe with a wink or a nod to the past, but a little bit of an update.
Yeah, I think they could be, because the symbolism is, I think, an issue to the popularity. But it's like it could be like also the same thing that we can say about like the Swedish flag. It's a religious symbol, really, but that doesn't really matter because people still feel represented by it.
Right.
You know, blue and yellow, that's our colors. That's just how our flags look like. But we're an atheist country, so...
Yeah, I think more than most. From what I read, anyway.
Yeah. But maybe that's just me coming from a traditional Christian family. That's another discussion. Like someone who's not from a Christian background, I guess. I don't know how they would feel about the flag, and
sure.
I kind of think maybe that could be an issue.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked several times on the show about like things kind of surpassing or outgrowing, or whatever way you want to word it, like the thing that they originally were, and you know, coming to mean something new, whether it's for the better or for the worse. I think a lot of times we talk about it being for the worse with the US flag, but there are ones we've talked about it being for the better with as well. It's I mean, the arc of history, man. But I think it does. I don't know. It matters if people feel represented by their flag, and I don't know. I'm not
but what does the Tennessee flag represent?
So the tri-star in the middle represents the 3 grand divisions of Tennessee, which is East Tennessee, the best one, Middle Tennessee, and West Tennessee. They're all bound together. The white is just a stylistic, it's fimbriation around that. And then the blue stripe on the on the fly side, rather, is just another design choice. Basically.
Okay.
It's the main thing is the 3 grand divisions, and then the red. I honestly couldn't tell you what the red's supposed to mean.
No, but like that's what I was thinking, because you don't really know what it means, but it just feels like Tennessee.
Yeah.
So maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know.
I mean, you could even switch the blue and the red. Like some of the counties do basically switch the blue and the red, and have like maybe a county seal under the tri-star in the middle. Nobody knows what the blue or the red stand for. Like you said, it's just this feels Tennessee kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, maybe to my last and third point is the and this is a heraldic thing, basically, and that's the standardization. Because in heraldry, you know, the blazon or blazon, the description of the arms is the design, right? Yeah. So being these complicated illustrations of animals and such, they depend a lot on the artist, if they look good or not. And I think like recreations might turn people away from them because someone has drawn a really ugly eagle.
Right, yeah.
So like the ones that I'm showing you were made by someone on Wikipedia called Leonid or something. Okay. But there are other versions that are much worse. So
yeah, I was gonna say these don't look bad for, you know, well, they look Wikipedia, but they don't look bad.
So one that is Wikipedia is the Norrköping flag.
Okay, let me. Which list? Oh, wait. Okay, yeah, that's on its own. Yeah, you sent me that one separately because it's got its own, very much own thing going on here. Wow. Gosh, if you are a listener, maybe become a viewer for a day, because Whew. Or check the show notes. This will be in there as well. This will. Whew.
It's a bit goofy.
Yeah, go ahead and explain the differences and go into it.
Well, the better one is illustrated by like the national heraldist, you know.
Yes.
So that one is really nice, while the Wikipedia one is kind of pieced together, doesn't really look very good, very goofy. And so, like, what I'm thinking about that is in Norrköping, they don't use this flag.
Okay.
And I don't think, like, if someone goes on Wikipedia and sees that version, they're not gonna like rally to start using this awesome flag because it's ugly.
Yeah.
And that might be the case for the provincial flags too.
Yeah, I wonder how many that is the case for. I'm sure more than a few.
And no one can agree on what version to use. And there's not even a government to choose that because they're not administrative, right?
Oh, right. Okay. So wait, who is it up to choose that then? Is it just up to an end of it? Well, no, there's got to be something over City Hall, right?
Well, since they're not administrative anymore.
Well, you did say.
Yes. So.
Huh. Yeah, that is bizarre. I can't think of a comp like in the U.S. a comparable thing for that. I will say for the listeners, these flags, as I mentioned, are wildly different. But like, yeah, the official or maybe older one, whatever, the Vladimir Zagerlund, is that the designer or is that the...
Yeah, that's the illustrator.
The illustrator, okay. Yeah, I mean, his looks... It looks like it follows kind of the basic design principles of the other ones that we saw in the counties, provinces. The head doesn't look too much different. Well, actually, the Wikipedia one doesn't look too much different stylistically from the Stockholm one either. But I will say that the Wikipedia one, it looks like the cool teacher just jumped up on the desk to talk to you kids for a minute with his axe and his whatever that thing is called, the orb with the cross on top. There's a name for that thing. I don't know it.
Golden apple?
Yeah, golden apple. Holy hand grenade, what have you. But yeah, the Wikipedia one looks very much like he just jumped up on a desk and he's like, all right, kids, let's rap today. What's going on in your lives? What's going on in class? Like, whereas the Vladimir Zagerlund one looks very much like serene, defined, like very much like regal. I mean, which it should. He's got a crown on. Like, whole different ball game while getting the same basic prompt, I would imagine, because a lot of these are drawn, I assume, anyway, from a written prompt.
Yeah,
like a lot of the English.
They just have a description.
Yeah. So lacking any visual thing to kind of like copy off of.
Yeah,
I could see how you end up at the Wikipedia one, but good Lord, I wouldn't want to fly it. No way. No way. All right. So what do we got to move on to next? We went through
That's about it for my my stuff about the provincial flags. But then there have been some interesting reactions or like consequences.
Okay.
Like due to the unpopularity of the banners of arms of the provinces.
Okay, so tell me about that. There's been, how does that manifest itself, I guess?
Like there has been surfacing a couple of alternatives. Alternative flags to represent the provinces, which some people prefer. So one the main example of this that's been really successful is the flag of Skåne.
Okay, and you sent me that one as well. Yep.
Yeah. So it's represented by a cross flag that is widely accepted as the flag of Skåne. So it's not the banner of arms that's used here, like not at all. It's this flag, a red flag with a yellow cross.
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
Yeah, it's much better.
I mean, I'm a noted lover of the Nordic Cross flags, but yeah, how do you pronounce it? Skåne?
Skåne.
Skåne. I was gonna say, I think that is the best known, at least to me, and maybe the wider Vex community, of the Nordic Cross flags within Sweden, or smaller scale ones.
It's super popular.
It's
interesting.
okay. And do they have a different one? Like they have an older one that is just not used? Because I don't see it on the list. Oh no, I do see it on the list.
Yes.
Okay, the eagle with the crown.
Yeah.
Right, but I imagine you hardly ever see that, and you do see this. Yeah. Yep. That's an interesting case too, because like, not to go on too much of a tangent here, but it's an interesting case because the eagle one, right? It is related to the other current ones. They're all squares, they're all banners of arms. A lot of them have animals, facing the hoist. They're all very similar in ways that we've touched on that, we don't need to go back into. But the Skåne one that you're talking about with the Nordic Scandinavian cross on it is also related, just to a different thing. It's related to the rest of the Nordic crosses, and we don't have to go through all those. I mean, we will go through a few more of them, and viewers will see a few more pop up in just a minute. But yeah, it's an interesting case of do I want to be related to this, or do I want to be related to that?
Yeah.
And it seems like from what you're telling me, and I totally agree with this, there's a strong pull more to be aligned, associated, whatever, with the Nordic Cross design than the banner of arms design. Is that kind of the a way to put it?
For some reason, and that's what's interesting for us flag enthusiasts to think about.
It is.
Why?
It is. So I'll ask you this: you personally, and I've read your notes, so I might know the answer to this, but do you prefer more for the provinces, the counties, etc.? Do you prefer more the banner of arms side, or more the the Nordic Cross side? Or does it depend?
It depends. Yes.
Okay.
Skåne, probably yes.
Probably yes. Nordic Cross.
Yeah, Nordic Cross, because it's popular. But for the others, I think the banners of arms.
Okay. That's interesting. One other thing that I can see running into with this is, so we talked about a lot of the banners of arms there's a grand total of, if you include, yellow, white, black, there's a grand total of like 6 colors on these things. So if you were to try and make them all into Nordic crosses, you and listeners can already see the problem you would run into is there's only so many combinations you can do, even if you fimbriate them. It's possible maybe you throw something up in where the canton would be, but then it starts to get maybe a little bit messy.
Same problem.
Yeah, I don't have an answer. I like I said, I do love Nordic Scandinavian crosses, but I can also see a problem with turning them all into that too. So it's a tricky situation, I guess, there. And like you said, it does depend. It really depends.
Yeah, so the popularity of this Skåne flag has then inspired other people of other provinces to try to make something similar and get the ball rolling.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's another picture.
Yes.
And they usually put green and gold for agriculture, or blue for that one lake. And it turns into something like that instead. Maybe that because if they use the colors from the coat of arms, then they would all be similar.
Right. I'm trying to get them both on my screen at the same time here. There we go. Yeah, to just kind of compare the colors that they tried to. So Gotland. Do we have that even on the left one, or the?
Yeah, it's the one with sheep.
Oh yeah, Gotland. Okay, so they went like we were talking about with the color problem. They went a bit different. Theirs is a yellow gold field with a green Nordic cross. Okay.
Yeah, whereas for agriculture or something.
Right. The sheep is a bit different.
So now they're connecting to something more modern. Modern symbolism. What's going on right now?
So In what sense is that like more modern, the Nordic Cross one? Are you talking about just in design or in the colors as well?
I'm talking about like what inspired the design choices.
This modern like movement toward those kind of flags and away from banners of arms is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
But like I see a problem with this too, because cross flags are very simple, right? So in a simple design, colors are really like the only thing you can work with. So they become really important. And if you use the wrong colors, it's gonna feel wrong, the wrong vibe. You know, you can't just pick any colors for to represent the place.
Yeah. Yeah, because otherwise you run into the same. I'm sorry. Also, if I unintentionally jumped ahead with the colors, but it's also like you run into the same problem that you ran into with the banners of arms of looking similar at a distance type thing, or one of the problems. There's, like we said, there's only so many combinations of colors, and like you could do like, you know, like a green field with a yellow cross and a green field with a white cross, and at a distance they're not going to look that much different, even if up close they do. So yeah, that is.
And I think like in some of the provinces, the color of the coat of arms is actually like kind of already established as like the color of that province, because it shows itself, it appears again in like the municipal arms. So
Right.
some province and their municipalities have blue and white. That's their color. Like, so if you then come and choose another color for the cross flag, that's gonna be real weird.
Yeah, it just
gonna
gets
help
like
the issue.
complicated. Yeah, I guess there's like a problem that I never really thought about with getting. Well, maybe I have thought about it because I've seen some recently Tennessee county flags as I've been traveling a little bit further and in different places around here than I normally do, and they are all very, very similar. But it's a problem of they're like an oversaturation of the market almost kind of thing, where there's only so much of a design you can do. But anyway, I wanted to get as much as I love, and probably could talk about Scandinavian cross flags forever. There's one that sticks out to me, and if I'm not wrong, yeah, you had it on your list of things to talk about as well. This Karlstad flag, which I think, which somehow or another has not come up on the show yet. But I mean, here I'll let you intro this this segment here.
Well, let's just say that other reactions against the banner of arms are these like more modern style flags, logo type flags. So if you pull up the picture, you can see that the coat of arms of Karlstad municipality is really nice. It has the blue eagle of the Värmland province to which it belongs.
Yep.
And it's between two red towers. But instead, they fly like their city logo on a white flag. And that's a yellow sun with a smiley face. Because apparently the sun always shines in Karlstad.
Is that so, like, is that an expression that's like known outside Karlstad?
Yeah, it's called like Sun City.
Okay.
I think.
It's like always sunny in Philadelphia, but it's always sunny in Karlstad, and yeah, I didn't think it was always sunny anywhere in Sweden. I'm not gonna lie. I guess like I guess maybe I'm more thinking of like up north, but well, actually, I guess up north, for part of the year it is always sunny.
It is, yes.
Yeah,
summer.
Well, teach me to.
Yeah, but anyway, like so if you ask someone that is from Karlstad, they say that, yeah, this is our flag. They don't know what that other banner of arms thing is.
Okay, so they're not familiar with it. It's not, as you said previously, it's not flown over City Hall, anything like that. Yeah, that is interesting. It almost seems, I don't know, man. This one's tough because I see what you're getting at with like there's two reactions to the banners of arms. There's let's go Nordic Cross, which is historical but also modern in a sense of like, well, the senses that we discussed. And there's this "Let's Go" logo, I guess, movement.
Yeah.
Probably
Just something that we like. Well, put it on the flag.
Yeah. I cannot get over the Karlstad sun, because just the eyes, the squared off nose.
Yeah.
Like, I don't.
It's drawn by a famous illustrator that had some type of connection to the city.
Okay. I guess.
Yeah. But anyway, like, the sun always shines in Karlstad, to them, is better than whatever an eagle between two towers means.
Sure. Yeah. No. Okay.
Yeah. So I think, like, I'm thinking about, like, the New Zealand flag debate, where it's easy for us outsiders to say, like, oh, that's a bad flag, you should change it. But they actually love it. They wouldn't change it for anything, right?
Right.
People can love a bad flag. And does that make it good, maybe?
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. And we don't, like, on this show, or maybe in this field or hobby or whatever, stop to think about that enough. Or at least I can only speak for myself, but I definitely don't. I think of things in objective terms. Like, okay, this is objectively better. Well, all right, a few people voted that one was better, but, you know, what do those people really know about design or vexillology or whatever? And I got to check myself sometimes, like right now, and be like, what do I really know about design? As we mentioned at the top of the show, I've designed a couple flags and they were terrible. Like, I'm not any better. In fact, I'm a lot worse than a lot of these. And if a community decides that the sun thing represents them better than the banner thing, and maybe there was even a Nordic Cross version floated, and they decided, and I don't know if there was, and they decided that the sun thing was best, then you leave that up to the community. You know, it's, if that's the one they're proud of, that's the one they're gonna actively purchase and fly and everything else, and define themselves almost by, then that's the flag. And you even have it listed here as Karlstad de facto flag, which I think is a great note on your part, because that's, I mean, there's not a better way to put it than that. Yeah. It's interesting to take a step back sometimes from the hobby, the field, and realize some of these things.
Yeah, people actually use flags. Other than us.
People that aren't into
Nerds.
flags use flags. I guess it's like other than us, the way you put it. Yeah. It's interesting. The more you get into the field or the hobby, the more you forget that, I guess. Which most of us, those are our origins, just being generally interested in a flag. You know, yours was the Stockholm flag. Even if you thought it could be better, it's, you're interested in it at first and go from there. Yeah. Karlstad is it's definitely a case study. I would like to see a little bit more, like, written about this.
True.
To be honest, maybe in even some of the Nava stuff, or the Fiav, like really anywhere. Does Sweden actually, and I should know this, but does Sweden have a Vex society, like a flag association?
No, there's not one. There's a heraldic association.
Right. I think I follow them on social.
Yeah, they have an Instagram, I think.
Yeah.
But I think there's a Nordic Vexillological association.
That was going to be my next question, and my question after that was going to be, how do I join them? Which I will Google.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it makes sense. To have a. We've talked about it time and time in the past, kind of scattered, but to have a regional one like that, maybe in cases like that, more, especially with related flags, more so than more granular micro ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, this it's very, very interesting. So you've got in your notes here, so Brian Cham, who I just had the pleasure of not talking directly with, but kind of meeting digitally at Nava 57. But you have here his deal breakers of flag design, and to be honest, I am not sure exactly what they are. So do you want to go a little bit into that as it relates to the Karlstad or anything else we talked about?
Yeah, it does relate to the Karlstad flag and like the New Zealand flag. That's what he when he made it, and I think it's just as something very interesting. and a very good like complementary thing to like the good flag, bad flag stuff, because it says like some stuff about, you know, people have to feel connected to the flag. It can't look too much like a logo. It can't have some mystery symbolism that no one understands. Things like that, other than just that the design should work as a flag.
Right.
Because people are going to use it. They need to like it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess like you kind of had that wrapped into what we already talked about as far as like the de facto bit a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes total sense. And yeah.
Yeah. So I think Brian Cham's deal breakers of flag design should be regarded like as equally as important as the good flag, bad flag principles.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Kind of companion volumes, as it were.
Yep.
I mean, I already, on a similar-ish related note, I already kind of count the rule of tincture. I can never remember if it is one of the rules of like good flag, bad flag, because I just have rules in my head and they're not numbered; they're just there. I'm like, yeah, rule of tincture is one of the good flag, bad flag. Oh no, it's actually not. It's a separate thing, but it's related.
Contrast.
Yeah. The deal breakers, deal breakers of flag design. I mean, it definitely worth going into. Kind of more on the bad flag side, I guess. All right. And so you had, from what I understand, some ideas to increase the usage of these flags. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, and that's because I'm really like a vexillographer. So of course I've had my own ideas, like how do I solve this? And I came across some provincial pennants that they use in Finland. And what they do over there is that they take the colors from the coat of arms and put it on a pennant. And why I think that would work in Sweden too is because there's kind of like an old rule that says that you should only fly the national flags on special days.
Right, yeah.
And you can't have it up at night. But with a pennant, that is actually, due to this old rule, used more than the Swedish flag.
Is it because it's not considered technically the national flag, so there are less like rules binding it?
Yes.
Okay. It's similar in Norway, from what I understand.
Oh yeah, it is. I remember Frederick. Yes. Yeah. So I just think that maybe because you're not supposed to have the national flag up all day, every day, people choose to not fly the provincial flags. You get what I say?
Yeah. It's almost like a habit thing. Like if I'm going up and I'm putting up flags, I'm going to put them both up at the same time. It's like an economy of time type thing. Like, yeah. Whereas if I have to be constantly out there taking it down at the right times, putting it up at the right times, like that's probably like all I can be bothered to do at that point. And I'm not going to really do much outside of that, especially as if I'm not a flag person, you know.
Yeah. So my thought was just that this would get the colors up more.
Yeah.
Like you would see it more around, make it more popular, improve people's connection to the colors, and then in the next line to the design of the arms.
Right. Yeah, it's a set it and forget it kind of thing. Just leave them up. Don't have to abide by all these rules and stuff. Yeah, no, that is interesting. Do the Finnish ones? You said this is the provincial pennants inspired by Finland.
Yes.
Gotcha. Right. Okay. So you also had a note in here about arms on a bicolor, a tricolor, a la the one you mentioned was Germany, and I think you're referring to the state ones there, such as I think like Nord Rhine-Westphalia. I think the Saarland has this. a couple others. Actually, I might be wrong with the Nord Rhine-Westphalia one. But the Saarland and a couple others have basically the German tricolor, and then the arms on top of that.
Yeah.
Is that another thing that you would kind of like think is like a middle ground approach, or?
It's kind of like a middle ground, but also something that I think would also help in increasing the popularity and connection to identity with the colors. Because it could also increase like remixability. A tricolor is much easier to put on anything. So
yeah,
makes a more simple design. Like you can just use the tricolor, and it still feels like our symbol.
Yeah,
the province's symbol.
Yeah, I kind of run into like with that. I could see the problem of visibility at a distance, though. I think.
Yeah, but I mean, since it is like a bold tricolor, I don't think it would matter that much that you couldn't see the coat of arms from a distance, because you'd still see what flag it was. Just that it has something in the middle.
You're saying it's more important to see, like, I guess the bigger picture.
Yeah.
In the example we were using, the Germany part rather than the Saarland part or whatever.
Yeah.
You know who you're. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I get what you're saying. You know what country.
It's recognizable from a distance, but you can't distinguish every part.
Right. You can never, and this is maybe an interesting one to use, but you could never confuse the Saarland for being French because of its use of the German colors and a crest. Even at a distance, you would not. You would say, okay, that's clearly a German state town. You know, whatever you could tell at a distance, I guess at that point. But okay, yeah. I get what you're saying. That is interesting. And yeah, those things are not at odds as far as that goes. Yeah, because you want to identify. Okay, sorry, working through it in my head and everything. That is an interesting approach. So, all right. The next thing we have in our notes here. Now, this is a past guest, several times at least if you're a Patreon subscriber. But you talk a little bit in your notes about Kryštof Huk's approach, which we kind of touched on with the arms thing earlier, but you said this is a little bit different.
Yeah, and Kryštof is a legend, by the way. He's designed many municipal flags in Czechia, and what he does, and what I think like is the general trend in Czechia, is that the flag designs take inspiration from the coat of arms, but it's not like restrained in any way by a standard template. Like not like Germany, you put it on a tricolor, not like Sweden where it gets turned into a square. But you can like be creative and make a flag that like really works for being a flag.
Yeah, he's got a lot of cool ones that again, an ad for the Discord, I guess, but like he posts a lot of them in there. And yeah, it's what's the one like Letovica or something? The one with like the milk jug that's like spilling out. That's like the one that he most commonly uses, I think, as an example when he's talking about this kind of thing. I wish I could remember. It's Letitsa? No, Letitsa is a different. Yeah. Anyway, it basically, you can take the coat of arms and you can even literally turn it on its head. You know, not just figuratively, but like you can turn it upside down. You can turn it to the left so that, you know, this element is facing the hoist, or the other way, it's facing the fly. You can kind of, you get like it's almost like you get a set of Legos and there is like a way to build the coat of arms, but you could build the flag with the same Legos kind of any way you want. And I do think it's an interesting approach. And I know you briefly said, but like, do you think that would take off in Sweden? Do you think there would be any level of popularity to that? Or do you see like one of the two kind of dominant schools now not really letting that happen?
I think it could work, because it's both like at the same time not too radical, and it also makes the flags better adapted for flag use, you know?
Right. And it's open-ended, but it's not too open-ended, which I think you have on here like USA styled, recently adopted. So I'll let you go into that, but what I gather from that is it's a little bit more willy-nilly.
Yeah, well, it seems like in the US, there's no like banner arm style, no Nordic Cross style that people feel like a flag should be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's complete freedom. You can make the outline of a mountain. You can do whatever.
Right. The be related really only extends to the colors, and even then, I wouldn't call like some of them like Iowa related. The Iowa one looks more French. There's one, Missouri, I think looks more Dutch. You know, they may have the colors, but it's struggling to be related. So like, okay, so there's like the German approach where it's just the national flag, coat of arms, put it on it. There's the U.S. approach, which is just kind of, you know, what the U.S. is known for, at least locally, just total freedom. Do whatever you want. And then, so like, I guess like, what would you call like Kryštof's like Czech approach? Like,
a middle way approach.
Yeah, like a middle ground, middle way approach to that. So do you see that one being, given that it is the middle way, do you see that being the most likely, or is it kind of up in the air as far as?
Well, I think the Nordic Cross, due to the popularity of Skåne flag, is most likely, but maybe Czech style would be good still.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not, I guess, always about like what pleases us VexHeads and like flag nerds the most. It's about, you know, what design is going to be picked up by the community, used by the community. I mean, like the kind of thing we saw in Karlstad. So it's up to the people, as it were. And honestly, I think that is probably a good place to at least start closing things out here.
Yep.
Before we get to plugs, Max, myself and the patrons are curious. Do you have like maybe 10-15 minutes to stick around after this to expand on a couple things we didn't get to?
For sure. I have more things to talk about.
Okay, so yes, go to the Patreon, y'all, for that. A little bit of a bonus on the end of this. But for this, we will go ahead and get into plugs. So Max, let us know where we can find you, follow you, see your designs, all that good stuff.
Yes, so mainly I'm on Instagram. That's where I have my profile, new_Vexillology. I try to post things that I'm interested in, and I hope that we'll make some unique and interesting content for all of you. Then I sometimes upload my designs to Reddit on the user name Smiix. And that's about the stuff that I do right now.
Right. And how are we spelling Smiix for the record?
Oh, Smiix.
Right. 2 I's in there for that. But yeah, go follow him. All of those places. Very exciting stuff. I'm getting more into Reddit. I love Instagram. Well, I have a love-hate relationship with Instagram, but I love your Instagram, I should say. I love your format. Like everything is very defined, very like similar in a good way that like just lets me visualize, all right, what are the best and worst flags? Oh, here's all the green and blue ones. They're all next to each other. Here's this, etc. Yeah, your Instagram is one of my favorite follows. So everyone go out and follow new_Vexillology on Instagram. And then as far as our plugs, I think it's the usual. It's anywhere there's an @ sign. You can find us at flagged4, the number 4, content. YouTube, it's at flagged for content, all spelled out. We have a link tree, which basically, if you're in question about any of these things, the link tree will take you all those places and more. It's worth noting that Max here used the link tree to kind of like let me know that he was interested as being a guest.
Yeah.
In being a guest. we have a new, or I forget how I worded it, but a guest request form, and anyone can go on there, VexHead or no, go on and say like, hey, here's what I have to offer. I'm interested in the show. This is what I know about flags, etc. Anyway, that's all in the link tree. Go check that out. And yeah, I think that is it for our plugs. Max, I am never good at closing things out, and today is no different. Do you have any way that you might see us out here?
Well, we've had flags and banners, so now it's up to our listeners to like and share this episode. Mind your manners, and we might get to standards.
We'll see.
And get flagged.
Yeah,
in a good way.
I currently have no standards, but we'll get there. All right. Well, Max, thank you so much. Patrons, head on over there. For everyone else, this has been Flagged for Content, and thank you so much for listening. Take care, y'all. Flagged for Content is a Flags for Good podcast. Go to flagsforgood.com for more info.